In this lesson, we're going to use distributive property, and we're also going to be combining like terms. So it's really important that you remember everything we learned about adding numbers that have the same sign, different signs, and multiplying and dividing signed numbers as well. All right, so let's start. So we have this expression, and we are asked to rewrite it using the fewest possible terms. So my first step is going to be to rewrite this expression without the parentheses. Now, since these two parentheses are being added together, I can just rewrite them without the parentheses. So I would have -7 plus 2.5b plus 13.2b minus 3. All right, now what you're going to see in some of the answer choices is that anytime we have subtraction, they're going to rewrite that as an addition problem. So I'm going to keep everything pretty much the same, -7 plus 2.5b plus 13.2b, but instead of writing minus 3 at the end, that is the same thing as adding a -3. Okay, those are equivalent, and this is how you're going to see it in some of the answer choices. So I'm going to do that just so that you're used to it and so that we have all addition. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the commutative property so that I can move the terms around and put like terms together. I have two terms that have the letter b, or the variable b, so I'm going to put those together. I'll write them first. So I have a 2.5b and I have a 13.2b, right? And then I have two terms that don't have a b, right? A -7 and a -3. So I'm going to write those. So I'm going to add, right? Actually, let me change my color there. I'm going to add a -7 and a -3. So it's really important that even though I move that 7 to a different location, it still has a negative in front of it. Okay, so now I can only add if they are like terms. And like terms means that they have the same variable, and in some cases when we have exponents, they have to have the same variable to the same exponent. But we don't have any exponents yet, so we just have to make sure the variable is the same, and then we can add. So we can add these together. We can also add these together because they don't have a variable. Terms that don't have a variable are called constants. All right, so I'm going to add those. So I've got 2.5 and 13.2, and when I add those together, I get 15.7b, right? Because if you think about it with just whole numbers, if I have 2 b's and then I have 3 b's, I add them together and I have 5 b's, right? So the variable just stays. And then -7 plus -3. Remember we talked about if their signs are the same, they're on the same team. So I have 7 on the negative team, 3 on the negative team. I combine them to have 10 on the negative team. So I can write plus -10. This is equivalent to writing 15.7b minus 10. Because remember, subtracting is the same as adding a negative, right? So either of these options, if they were options in multiple choice, are acceptable. All right. Now for this one, I'm going to start off the same way. I am going to rewrite this without the parentheses, but there's a difference. For this one, this minus sign, that's right here, means that I am subtracting not just the 10, but I'm also subtracting the second term in the parentheses. So what we're going to do anytime we have a negative out in front of parentheses like that is we're going to treat this, we're going to treat this as a -1, and we're going to distribute. Now just a little refresher. When the signs are the same, right? the answer is positive. Right? When the signs are the same and we're multiplying, the answer is positive. The signs are different. Remember, that's our little guy here who looks like he got kind of beat up, like he has a black eye. When the signs are different, the answer is negative. You just look at the nose, right? Signs are different, the answer is negative. Signs are the same, answer is positive. Okay, so let's do some multiplying. But before I distribute that, I'm just going to rewrite the first part. So I'm going to have 7 plus 2.5a, and now I'm going to distribute. Negative 1 times 10 is negative 10, and negative 1 times positive 12.9a is negative 12.9a. Now, because you're going to see these subtraction problems written as addition, I'm going to write it all as addition. So I would have 7 plus 2.5a plus a negative 10 plus a negative 12.9a. Now I'm going to use the commutative property to put like terms together. So I'm going to write my a terms first. That would be this one and this one. So I will have 2.5a plus a negative 12.9a. And then I have two numbers that don't have a variable, so I have two constant terms, and that's 7 and negative 10. All right, so now I have to actually do some addition here. The signs are different. Remember, that's when it's game on, right? The signs are different. We've got opposing teams that we're trying to combine. So the team with the most players wins, and then we have to figure out by how much, right? How much larger is that team? So the negative team has more players, so we know that the answer is going to be negative. And then the question is by how much? So 12.9 minus 2.5 is 10.4. And then over here, we've got opposing teams again, right? And once again, the negative team is going to win. And the negative team is going to win by 3 because the negative team has 3 more players than the positive team. And I could also write this as negative 10.4a plus negative 3, right? These are equivalent. There's not like one's right and the other's wrong. They're both correct. It just depends on what form you want the answer in. All right. Okay, I've got one more for you. Don't freak out. So, like I said, for the other two questions, we want to start by writing this without parentheses, right? But again, we've got subtraction, right? So I'm going to write this little negative 1 in here, and we're going to distribute that negative 1 to be able to write this without parentheses. So I'm going to copy the first part. I've got negative 3/4 x minus 8. And now I'm going to distribute the negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 17 is positive. And then negative 1 times positive 2/8 x is negative 2/8 x. Okay, so now, just like in the other problems, I'm going to rewrite this so that it is all addition. So I've got negative 3/4 x. My minus 8 becomes plus a negative 8. Then 17. And then plus a negative 2/8 x. And actually, you know what? 2/8 can be reduced, right? So instead of rewriting my 3/4 with a denominator of 8, I think I'm just going to rewrite the 2/8, right? Because 2/8 is the same as 1/4. But you could also rewrite the 3/4 as 6/8, right? If you needed to get a common denominator of 8. Okay, so now just as in the other two, I'm going to rearrange so that the like terms are next to each other. So I've got my two x terms. I've got this one and this one. So I've got negative 3/4 x, and I am adding a negative 1/4 x, and then plus a negative 8 plus a 17. Okay, so time to do some addition here. So if I look at them and they are the same sign, that means they're on the same team, right? So 3/4 on the negative team, 1/4 on the negative team, put them together, 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4, which is 1. But they're on the negative team, right? So I get negative 1x. Over here, on this side, they're on opposing teams. So I've got 8 on the negative team, 17 on the positive team. The positive team's going to win by 9. I have to think about that. Now, another way of writing negative 1x is just to write negative x. Right? So those are equivalent. I could also change the order, right? This is the same as saying 9 plus negative 1x. This is the same as saying 9 minus x, right? All of these are equivalent because we can use the commutative property to move the terms around. The order doesn't matter if we're just adding. As long as you remember to keep the sign in front of the term with that term when you move it around. All right. So as always, anything in this video that I said that maybe you didn't understand, just pause it, take a picture, send me your picture with your question, and I'm happy to answer it. Talk to you soon.